am Wendy Bruns. I'm APPPAH's Outreach and Communications Director, and I'm delighted to be your host for this series.
All but the nervous system, which I find really fascinating when we think about this metaphor in parents, is that the nervous system maintains. And then it has to rebuild. It has to build the butterfly self. But the dissolving and the rebuilding is all done in this space that we can't see inside of.
So we're missing the weaving of wisdom. And then on top of that, we have a cultural crisis. It's intersecting with all of this, where we are obsessed with independence. We're obsessed with bounce back culture. We are obsessed with comfort, I think, and convenience.
At my home.
Likewise.
Birth and death, two portals in and out of this place. And when you work around those energies, you know there's something so magical in the energy of that. There's a presence.
Control group. And we found something so obviously simple that the earlier that you can get secure bonding, you don't have to worry about birth trauma or prenatal trauma. It's not going to happen.
Kelly. Kelly, if you have time at the end of our meeting, please stay on after. We'll come back into our little foursome group, and we really just get to like celebrate you and have all the fun real chat.
Yeah, I have time totally. Like this is my day is booked for you guys. So
okay. Oh, I love hearing that. Awesome. Do you have questions for us, Kelly? I want to make sure that I'm just checking in on you.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm just in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna present, and I'm gonna watch the clock because I could keep going. So I got to be careful.
Well, I'm always happy to watch the clock as well. Please follow your presentation, however it goes. I'm always happy to do a little, oh, Kelly, there's so many things going on in the chat.
Yeah, only, yeah. You see, that's the thing. I really want to create space for the people. I feel like that's important. People have insights and things, and they'll probably have a lot. And I guess you're in charge of the chat because I won't be able to follow all that. Okay.
I will take care of the chat. Everything in there, I will take care of. We'll also send it to you post presentation today, so you can go in and read things. Our community, I mean, you know this, Kelly, our community is just so nice. And so I love sending the chat recording to our presenters. It's just a nice little nugget of appreciation. So no pressure on your end to speed read anything.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, I see the top of the hour on my clock. Ashley, respectfully, I'm going to mute you. Hannah, I'm going to mute you too. Kelly, I'm going to not mute you. And I feel ready to let folks in if you are, Kelly.
I'm ready to go. Thank you.
Oh, I'm excited. Hannah, do the honors. Hi, everybody. I see folks are joining us. We have our presenter's presentation up on the screen, so I wanted to just scoot over to another window so I could see you all. You are more than welcome to turn cameras on. I see folks' faces. You can write into the chat maybe where you're listening in from in the world. I'm in Sacramento, California, in the US. I see Travelers Rest in South Carolina. Hannah, you're in Clifton, Idaho. Hannah has just been doing her world tour of seeing family. So I feel like, somewhere new all the time. I see New Jersey. Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for joining us, folks. We are an international organization, so I love seeing everyone from all corners of the world and places that I always hope to visit. As we're kind of just settling into our seats today, I want to let folks know some fun APPA news and things that are going on. If you've been joining us over the last couple of weeks, I've been sharing that we have come to a conclusion wrap-up of our PPNE program. It's our Prenatal and Perinatal Educator Certificate program. It's kind of our big flagship flagship program here at APPA, and I have had the honor of working with some really wonderful and dedicated, so dedicated volunteers and my staff to get this program updated over the last 10 years and put in some new videos and articles and just updated information that's come out about prenatal and perinatal psychology over the last 10 years. We're going to drop a link into that chat into the chat for folks if they want to join or learn more about this program. For some of our PPNE students who might be listening today, I just want to thank you all for joining us on this wild ride of transition. And we are so excited to just really work with everyone as they're moving into just the most well put together program APPA has done in quite a while. And I just want to do another little reminder for maybe any of our midwives who are listening today, that we are going to be launching our newest program, our newest signature program. It's called The Conscious Midwife, supporting mothers, babies, and families for today's world very soon. And we are going to be offering exclusive early bird pricing. So we're going to drop a link into the chat as well to just get on a list so that we can update you when things like that come out. And for our other birth workers, maybe there are doulas in the room. I'm going to raise my hand, and I know there's a handful of other doulas who are listening. We're going to be coming out with other programs specifically for Barbara. You're the best. Specifically for doulas. And then if that gives you any kind of an maybe inkling of other programs that are going to come out over the next year and so on, just stay tuned for all the things that APPA has in the works. With all of that being said, I am so excited to introduce our guest for today, Kelly Meehan. She's a renowned spirit baby medium. She's a medical intuitive and a mentor with a global presence. She's the original creator of Spirit Baby Medium, and Kelly bridges communication between parents with the souls of their babies before life, in the womb, after birth, and in spirit. She has a background in clinical psychology and somatic psychology, where she brings decades of experience supporting families through conception, pregnancy, birth, and loss. She's so well known for her intuitive gifts, and Kelly integrates clairvoyance, energy medicine, and medical intuition to guide healing and transformation. She's also the host of a long-running podcast called Spirit Baby Radio, which I highly encourage you all to subscribe to on your phone, where she's featured and introduced luminaries like Bruce Lipton. And Kelly's work reaches across the globe, and her compassionate approach has touched thousands who are seeking deeper spiritual connection with their children and themselves. Just before we hopped on with you all, Kelly and I were talking about how we really want this to be an interesting conversation for you all. Please utilize the chat. This might be a new subject for some of us, and maybe for others, this is just a nice little reminder and breather of all things within the prenatal and perinatal world. So write anything into the chat. We're going to have some opportunity to really pick Kelly's brain and hear from her about Spirit Baby work, and help me give a warm welcome. Hi, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that amazing, all these things you said. It was so beautiful. It was like that. I didn't write that. I'm like, I love that though. Thank you for having me. I actually love this organization, and I learned about birth psychology, like 20 years ago. It's wild to see the expansiveness and the growth of it. And I'm always just celebrating the organization, the space, and the knowledge and love that has been globally shared. So thank you for having me. So I'm ready to go. Here we go. Spirit Baby Communication, Mentorship for our babies. And you can see the presentation here. It's a video, so we're gonna pause through it. I feel like I'm gonna begin at the very basics. What is a spirit baby? And I make it sound like it's this object, but it's so much more than that. And this is the quote that I worked so feverishly on to create in my book space. And so my quote, I'm going to read this, and we're gonna go deeper and further in mentorshipping with spirit baby, with babies and conception, pregnancy, and even healing through loss. A spirit baby is a conscious being with a spirit or soul or an energy. The spirit is an electrifying energy of potential life and an ultimate essence of deep, infinite love and truth. Spirit babies have an availability to be embodied as a human baby upon earth. The origins of the term spirit baby are unknown, but many ancient and modern societies have experienced intuitive realizations about children on their way in the world of nighttime dreams and through daydreams of psychic phenomena. There are no hard rules about connecting with your spirit child before life or after. Some simple vocabulary to explore when understanding spirit babies are soul, spirit, spirit baby, baby spirit, child spirit, light child, spark, divinity, child of light, to just name some. And I feel like just beginning with what is this? I know that sometimes there's a lot of questions or judgments or like the word spirit, but I feel like spirit baby, baby being is just life. It's just a part of creation. And oftentimes I say that you were once a spirit baby. Somebody like brought that like into my attention, like I'm a spirit baby. I'm like, actually you are. Like you came into this creative spark, into body and birthed into this world. And it's something to sit with and be in reflection with, because I know that our own foundational spaces of being born are highly valuable, and it structures so many different parts of us. And then if we're bringing children in, there's another piece to that. So I'm gonna let me see here, share more with you. So these are just some questions. I'm actually going to go through these questions, and I may also look ahead. Let's see, supporting babies as a professional. And I'm going to kind of go back and forth a little bit about pre-birth communication, spirit baby communication, and bringing that individually, but also professionally. So what does spirit baby communication, pre-birth communication mean to you? And how do you experience it? Because it really comes down to you as the individual, even as the professional, and they both can be separate experiences, but they're also interlinked. And actually, let me jump ahead here for a second. I'll come back to these other bullet points because I want to show you. Not that. Well, I'll come back to that quote too. How do you communicate with spirit babies? I feel like this is a really valuable, important place to go. And I'm not going to say it's simple because it can be quite challenging. But baby communication as an individual is its own journey. And I know that we have our own issues or insecurities or fears. And I'm going to go back and talk about that in a moment. But when we're beginning to connect with our own spirit baby, with other clients or friends, or sometimes spirit baby communication just happens. And you're just like, wait, what's happening? But I do know a lot of not just doulas, midwives, naturopaths, doctors, therapists, coaches. These are all the people that I've worked with and come to me, is that you just know it in your heart. You feel a connection to be of service and support. And there is something happening. And with that intuitive, very meta-sense space of connection. So if you're, looking to go deeper in spirit baby communication for yourself or for others, a really beautiful way to begin that is to sit in a quiet space of meditation. And it's okay if the mind is like active. It's like coming back to the quiet, listening. That can include visualizations, intentions, some like chanting and song and movement, because, and this is my somatic background, it's an umbrella of many different experiences. There's not just one experience to have, and that feels very important to say, because I know with spirit baby communication, some people may feel I'm not doing it right, or maybe it's my imagination, or maybe it's a fantasy, and it's okay to have all those feelings and experiences. And then you show up anyways and listen, the in-betweens of all that. Also here, open up to a new sense of listening and accessing your meta-sensing and your telepathic psychic communication. So a meta-sense would be like, could be like clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient, and whatever other clairs you want to name, telepathy. And everybody has a natural meta-sense connection, and yours is different for you. And, oops, sorry, my computer's doing something weird. There we go. So it's different for you. Everybody's going to have a different sense of perception, a different awareness, a different life experience, a different soul experience. So you're wanting to really sit and sense and listen to that meta-sense. The next one here is creating a ritual or practice of embodiment and awareness. because that's very valuable too. We do have to create rituals and practices at times, right? And I know, and they're always changing. So maybe you're like practicing connecting with nature, listening to your body. Maybe there's a movement aspect to that. Maybe it's more of a yoga experience, yoga therapy. As you know, again, the umbrella of embodiment, there's many different things under that. But if we are not embodied, it's going to be very challenging to listen. You could still listen and hear, but it makes it easier when we can just know who we are and how to listen and grow with it. And I really do feel like when you're in communication with spirit babies, my final point here is stay connected to like-minded and like-hearted community and learn through literature and trainings. And there is something about that. And I would even look at that. It's not just about reading the knowledge from books. It's about the experience in our bodies and the energy that we're shared with. So when you're with like-minded, and I really love the term like-hearted, because you're in match with others that, birth psychology is a really great example. It's like you're in like-heartedness with a mission that everybody feels really connected with and shares together. And there's a synergistic energy in that. And then it carries itself. And if you're learning about spirit baby communication and there's a lot of like negative forces that feel really intense to you, then it is going to be harder. And that's your own journey. That's your own connection to like, do I need this? Do I need that? It's kind of like bringing in different philosophies into different communities that maybe just do not even care about it. I'm sure we've seen that even with birth psychology. It's like, oh, I don't want that, get that away. And it's like, again, we want, that's a part of the communication too, is having the synergy of connection with community and like, oh, this is like, and to be curious with it. Because in the way that I've learned this and the way that I share it to the world is there's no final like thing. Like I can only tell you the philosophies of what I've seen working with others through the energy, but I feel like there's always space for mystery. There really is. Like some things we'll know and some things we won't know. And can we be okay with that? I mean, that's the big question. Can we be okay with the knowing and the not knowing? So let me move forward here. I may just move backwards to the other questions. Oh yeah, we'll come back to that. So that was my longer answer. Yeah, pre-birth communication, spirit baby communication. And when I use the word, I just want to be clear about pre-birth communication. I'm talking about pregnancy communication. And I feel like that's actually where I learned about pre-birth communication was through my trainings and learnings. I was like, what's this pre-birth communication thing? And then spirit baby communication, which has a similar connection for sure. So how do you build a personal practice of communication and grow with it? And as I was just sharing, it's, beginning with the daydreaming, the nighttime dreaming, I call it listening to who you are, connecting, slowing down. And how do you bring that even professionally? I actually do teach a Spirit Baby Academy, but you can begin to do it on your own. And I actually guarantee that most everybody is probably already doing it. And you get to bring it into what I call an energetic language into form a little bit to give substance to it. And that does require personal training, personal awareness, because I know that the world of energy, it doesn't have words and we have to bring it down in a certain way. And other times we don't actually, right? Because when we look at little baby infants, right? Newborns, it's like they're in communication, not just through body movement and crying. They're very highly telepathic and they know it and they're in connection with it. And we can either be a really poor telepath or a really good one. It's really up to us. Like that's how that works. So when you're in personal practice and you're like, maybe you're with a client or you're with like a group, it's like, you're learning about everybody and connecting with the energy of the space and seeing how people go into even their own self-discovery on their journey with conception, pregnancy, even healing through birth loss. Because even though I am someone of like I can get a lot of information for people and that's what people want to come to. And I call it like spirit baby communication therapy, we'll call it, with somatic pieces in there. But I know that the individual has to find their own way and build that connection and communication. And it's very empowering. I've seen so many men and women get very empowered by their journey, even if it's really hard, like with infertility, miscarriage, stillbirth, infancy loss. I've worked with all those areas. It's, there's still there's something built in there. It's like trusting the intuition, going into that space, doing the embodiment. So it is a personal practice that we have to keep expanding into. And for me, honestly, is sitting a lot in nature, really knowing who I am and what my service is to others. And also when I'm sitting with others, they have such a eclectic, expansive, I mean, there's so many words to it. They come with a certain presence, and the stories that are held in the body are in those moments. And my practice comes with connecting with others to see what is this connection of their energy body and with the medical intuition, or what is the spirit baby being, what are they sharing, and how I'm able to bring that conversation. But there's always pieces the individual then gets to build upon, which is, again, really powerful. And my next point here is, in what ways do you allow new or unexpected messages of communication to come through? And that's why I was talking about the metasenses. Most birth psychological, I'm going to like throw it out there. I feel like highly clairsentient, which is an empath. Strong feeler, strong feeler. I've met so many birth workers, professionals. There's, of course, you're strong feelers. You're connecting. Baby being is just like this being of feeling and energy, and opening to that is really powerful because it's nature, it's natural. And there are other meta senses too. Like some of you may be like having dreams or daydreams or visions. You may have inner auditory, you may hear things, or a knowing, which is a claircognizance, just having that sense of knowing. And sometimes messages will come in unexpected ways. And sometimes you may not even mean for it to. I've had babies come to me in dream space and I don't want it to because I'm like, that's a lot of work for me. Or if I'm working with some really hard situations around baby loss, and I will feel like I'm connected with them even when I'm not around them, and that energy will come in here and there, and I'm very gentle and open about it. I'm not just like, oh, I can't do this, I'm off the clock, or it's just like, this is how energy moves, and there's a reason that my logical mind may not fully understand, and can I be present to it? And there's such a beauty when we can fall into the intuitive trust of our own presence without analyzing, without like having to logically figure it out, which by the way, we all will do regardless. But this is why I love and I share a lot is, can we just be curious and just hold neutrality? Like, you may not know things, but at least we have the awareness to even acknowledge that, oh, there's something happening. So the next point here is, how do you experience trust in yourself, and how do you support your client with baby bonding, and how does it show up? I know it shows up different for everybody. It may feel like, oh, I get a certain, like I've had women come to me specifically. I'm thinking of this one woman, birth professional. She said, I get chills. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right? So that to her was a signal in her own body. And it's like she's building that felt sense energy. And it was very physical, but also very meta sense. And it's like, okay, great. That's how she's supporting herself and how she brings in a certain connection with the clients that she supports. And feels important. As I said before, there's not one way to experience spirit baby. And I know sometimes people ask me like, well, what is that like? And how do you, do this? And that could be a long conversation of, I almost don't want people to overthink it. There are certain things that I do and how I create space for others that I've just learned throughout my time. And so like how you experience that. Like, for example, when I'm working with one-on-one, I have a notebook and I'm very visual and I'm very feeling, I'm very knowing. So I actually write a lot, like literally have a blank notebook that's just covered with a stick figure, just covered in scribbles and words, and it's almost impossible to read even for myself. But that allows me to take that information and then not feel like I'm going to say what we're happening, what we're connecting with. It's like, oh, I'm being curious. I'm like writing these things down. And and so that's my process. And I tell, anyone that's in that space, like, maybe you're in communication with baby for yourself or with clients through writing, through movement. Maybe it's through colors. Maybe it's through numbers. Maybe it's through animal messages. There's not, again, this is where I'm trying to really show you there's not just one way. Just one way to be. It's, there's many different ways to build and connect. So trusting yourself, trusting your experience and how you support. And it really does help to, connect with others in that way. So you're not feeling alone. Because that's the piece. I know some people will feel like, oh, it's in my head and like, what do I do with it? And yeah, there's so much to that. So dropping down here, as a professional, what do you do with overthinking and lack of confidence? And so I feel like there's 4 obstacles: fear, doubt, uncertainty, and skepticism. And I would bring this not just to professionals, but also to those that are in, maybe you're in conception, pregnancy, or birth loss, and you're like, oh, there's a lot of energy in that. And especially if it was a hard fertility or hard conception, a hard pregnancy, and of course, birth loss is hard regardless, and what to do with that. And I always like to, of course, overthinking, overanalyzing is going to be, the obstacle and not a block. I like obstacle because it is an obstacle, right? So fear. I saw this quote a while ago. I'm probably going to say it wrong. It just popped in my head was fear. Oh, fear is a suggestion, not a reality. And that does not make it easy for not to have fear, but fear is an obstacle and fear can be discouraging. And I feel like if we know our own inner self, that when our fears do come up, we can, you know, do things with it to bear things, right? Like I always feel like, can we put fear on the back shelf? It's there. It's like a river of water. You kind of, if a river of water is running and you hear it, you can shift your perception to hear it, to not hear it. And so something to, again, we're not like, oh, we have to eliminate all the fear to get to that next level. It doesn't work that way. Fear is just here, but it's the way we're in relationship with it at times and what it's asking of us, I feel like. Doubt is okay. I hear this a lot. You're going to have doubt. And excuse me. And what are you going to do with that? So what? You have doubt and uncertainty. Okay, great. You have uncertainty. Yeah. And they're probably all mixed in there with fear, but so what also? And skepticism is healthy and normal. Okay, I'm not going to lie. It takes a lot for me to be skeptical. It really does, because I've seen so many things beyond spirit baby and in between worlds of energy that literally do not have any logic but have so much truth. And I'm just like, okay. So, but there are moments I have of skepticism and I'm like, that's interesting. I don't hold myself like in a bad space with it. So it's just like, okay, that's fine. It's healthy skepticism. We want to be like that. So don't feel like, I say these obstacles, fear, doubt, uncertainty, skepticism, it's normal and it's okay. And when we're in that space of normalness and okay, it's like your body can be more relaxed and go, yeah, that's just where I'm at right now. And then you get to open. You get to open to the next space of wherever you are. So I feel like I'm not sure if these will be available, but maybe I can share the PDF. I'm not sure if that's available later. I can share that so others can be like, oh, maybe I can sit and reflect on these questions and thoughts and ideas, because I know I'm talking, trying to keep track of time, and also just to go into your own space and reflection of it. So yeah, I'm open to share all this material. I just don't know how it works on the end of logistics.
Kelly, as long
So
as we
yeah.
have as long as we have your presentation post this live component, I can share it with folks via email.
Okay, yeah, whatever you need. That's perfect. Great. Thank you so much for that. Another quote I really like, it's from my book. Spirit baby communication is not scary, nor does it go against any religion or spiritual practices or require having any spiritual practices. It is instinctual and it lives within an awareness between parents, and child that begins with listening inward, connecting, trusting, and exploring. It is natural and inside of you. It is available to everyone. It requires love, presence, patience, and receiving. Again, I feel like we are set up for spirit baby communication. And I know in some cultures, there's a very different way that the energy of baby is called in. And sometimes through the partner, sometimes through the mother, sometimes through maybe even the relatives. So there's so many different ways to connect, and it's very cultural, it's very societal. And I feel like we use the term spirit baby communication to just activate the truth of it. Like, of course, there's a connection, and energy separates us from what? Even we think about a baby in the womb for a moment, there's so much happening there. There's energy, there's biology, there's spirituality, and yet there can even be levels of mystery. And the division is what? Just some muscles and tissues, but there's something happening. And there's such a miracle in that, in a sense, right? And yet there's some connection. And I say conception, pregnancy, but even birth loss, there's a connection, there's something, and you feel it. And oftentimes with miscarriage, stillbirth, I feel like with stillbirth, we know there's literally birthing happening, but even in a miscarriage, there's birthing happening, which I feel like has been very minimized culturally and society because there's death involved. Anytime there's death and grief involved, people get really triggered or they have their own history, and it's very regional to the world because in certain cultures there's more of an acceptance of the death space and grief being a part. And as many would say is, of course, birth and death really do carry a similar connection, don't they? And because of that, I actually did train in death midwifery to bring in the curiosities, right? Because I don't know if you can ever really be trained in death. I feel like there's wisdoms and curious insights and ideas, but it's really our own internal connection. Just like we know when we were born, we really do. I know everybody knows that. How would we not? We were there. And then when we move into the next space, it's like we're a part of that. And so, yeah, these different, spirit baby communication, which just so everybody knows, in the birth loss space, I actually call, especially with stillbirths and infancy loss, I call them the children of light because, they're named and they're part of something of this world, of that family, and so the children of light, and that journey and with those families is very unique. But there is spirit baby communication, of course, even more. And something I forgot to add in there is even termination too. There's communication connection across all those areas, and I've seen it bring in. We can even call it I'm gonna say grief therapy, mediumship therapy, which is more and more becoming more and more prevalent and more just incredibly healing in a way that I think that some people are very surprised bringing in that connection. It's very experiential. It's very in the moment. Um, so let me move ahead here we talked about that, how to sit with communication. Yes, you can explore that. And some things when I talked about the meta senses, I just wanted to like throw this like stronger visual of these words out to you. When we're in communication, whether for ourselves, with other signs, symbols, sensations, visions, daydreaming, and nighttime dreaming. So we receive signs. And I know then some would say, well, what if I'm overthinking the sign or overanalyzing it? I feel like when we know ourselves enough, you don't have to be a super expert, but you just, maybe you see something. There's so many stories running in my head where signs came through that were almost impossible. For example, a butterfly in the winter in the snow like that. I've never seen that personally. And there was a woman whose daughter passed, and it literally came right to her. Like, and she was like shocked. And I was like, and for her in that moment, she felt like it was her daughter. And so I'm not like second guessing that for her connection. I'm like, that is really, let's talk about that. Let's get like curious and excited. Like, wow, that's really interesting. There's been other things with like flowers as signs, words, messages, or sometimes children. Actually, this is a one too, is children, if they're siblings that are earth side that are here in their bodies and they have lost siblings, but they don't know it. but they say things because children are very telepathic. Naturally, they're not judging anything, so they see, whereas children have said things. Or shared animals that maybe the mother, this one story comes to my mind, the mother's like, I keep seeing these animals everywhere, and then the kid's drawing it all of a sudden and sharing it, and she's like, oh my gosh. We got to pay attention to the signs. But yeah, sometimes there's signs that mean nothing. So again, it's a fine balance. Symbols, when I say symbols, I'm talking about like numbers and shapes and colors, maybe even fall into that. You receive certain things, whether in daydreaming, which I call meditation, or just randomness, like, oh, I'm connecting with baby being and I'm getting all these things. And what do they mean to me? Not like, don't go Google it. I know it's so hard not to go Google things. What does it mean to you? The symbols, the colors, and sensations, all the feelers, the empaths feeling and sensing things. Trusting that, even if you're not sure, it's fine. And then vision, some of us get visions, just like things will just come through. I'll share one of my visions with my pregnancy, my second. I was doing a lot of this work, so my energy field was very different. And when we're spending a lot of time in energy fields of other people, especially in the sacral, which is the womb space, I feel like it changes our perception. It changes our energy in a really strong way. And a lot of times I would get visions randomly. I don't have to like sit and meditate into certain things. It just comes very random and I'm just paying attention to that. And I think I need that. So I'm not thinking or trying to create something. So one day, many years ago, literally cooking broccoli, telling my other kid to like settle down. And I kind of had a feeling I was pregnant, but I also was just doing the waiting, like the patience of waiting. Nobody wants to do that now. Got to go, test it right away. Like, and actually I tried to do that and it didn't come. It wasn't strong enough yet, but I was like, something's happening. And I had mixing broccoli right there. And this was a very detailed vision and it came up through my body. And I was being shown, most likely by my son and my own intuition, I was shown an embryo cozying into my uterus. And I thought, that's interesting. And I'm like, and it made me tear. It brought emotion. And I was just like cooking and I was just like, oh, I was like, yeah, I think I am pregnant. I can have doubts too, right? And I'm like, and I actually thought I was in the very like, intimate connection. I was like, I think this is like, there's a baby. It was just a different field of energy that I was very aware of. But when my firstborn, I was so terrified. I'm like, maybe I'll have a baby, maybe I won't. And I didn't have that same experience because I was ready to see whatever was going to come through. And that's just an example for visions. And there's so many more. If you're a very visual person, you may get all those visual messages. And when I use the word daydreaming, I am using like, when you're just kind of hypnotic or you're driving or you're kind of like I'm cooking broccoli, I'm focused, or vacuuming, and then you just get messages because that energy doesn't need you to be a certain way, to be honest, right? It's our minds that block everything. And so you can do daydreaming meditation. It could just be like sitting in quiet. And nighttime dreaming, there's a lot of dreamers. A lot of people will say, well, how do I know it's my spirit baby in my dream? And my number one thing is, it feels different. And I'm not talking about a nightmare where you're like, oh, this is a catastrophe and something horrible is happening. When babies are in communication, I've had really intuitive psychic women tell me when their babies were going to pass, they had a different felt sense about it. But baby is going to communicate to your own higher self and how it needs to. And sometimes we're not going to get that information, and that's hard. Baby's not going to come and say, I love you. Okay, I'm going to leave now. And you're going to be like, whoa, it's going to create anxiety or fear for you. Baby's not going to create that energy with you. So it really depends on you and your connection to that space, right? The dream space is a very unique space, and it is a space of communication. So just to give to that, more spirit baby communication, connections, and awarenesses. For professionals, I'm going to read this, and then I do want to open up for questions and answers or curiosities or whatever, where everybody's at. Fertility, pregnancy, birth loss healing, and birthing can only change with individual and community support. Sharing baby communication adds to the bonding that starts before birth and can provide a level of healing, especially with infertility and birth loss. I've seen people even going through years of like psychotherapy, and I don't want to minimize that. I understand that as I've studied it. But sometimes that cognitive, there's more that's wanting to be in the space. And sometimes just a few sessions or a few experiences can really change the whole trajectory and dynamic of connecting to this world and connecting to the other world and bring about a very individual, healing. So I have here 4 bullet points, just as a birth professional, or I feel like the people call themselves birth professionals here, maybe as a professional of some kind, is when I say here, start with your spark within, whether you're a parent, healthcare provider, educator, advocate, your spark of being in this space of like, you know what, there's something with this infancy space, whether it's working with babies, with adults, with parents, that energy is very powerful, and it builds that attraction with the world, with others, with what your mission is. And the next one here, advocating for your mission. Yeah, sharing your mission. When I came into Spirit Baby Communication, I started with pre-birth communication, with this birth healing was my kind of opening to it as what I was sharing. And then I was like, can I do Spirit Baby? Like, what does that mean? It was so around me. And then I was not like, I wasn't like, it was, there was insecurities, and it was hard in the beginning. And then I was like, but I had such a good community of people that supported me, which really made a difference. And so advocating for your mission, I knew it in my heart. And I wrote here, through storytelling, education, policy engagement, amplifies your impact. It does. When we hear stories, we get inspired, connected with that energy, and there's education, and people will go out. Like, I know a lot of doulas that do different things, midwives, really implementing things in communities and making it happen. Birth psychology therapists, all kinds of, I'm not to leave anybody out. But of course, social media, platforms to share, like social media, community events, local organizations to raise awareness. It really does make a difference, for sure. Awareness and action, providing cultural shifts, building networks of support, and sharing knowledge, same as advocating for your mission. And speaking up and implementing it. I call that the ripple effect. Like, we're seeing a lot of things in social media about birth and the birth system, even the business of fertility, even like the medical, freedom. It's like all these things we do have to question, even if it's uncomfortable. There's so many truths that, yeah, things aren't maybe working in a harmonious way. And that's what all I know many here are bringing that forward in their words and their energy and who you are. And so your mission probably already may even include Spirit Baby, but maybe it's a different language that you bring forward. So sit with that. Like, we're gonna cut. Thank you. There we go. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Communication Mentorship for Our Babies. And I'm going to figure out how to get this off. Let me see. There we go.
Fantastic.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much for this presentation. I want to remind folks, I know that we said at the beginning of this, sometimes this might be really new information for us listening in today. Like Kelly said, take a second, let it all soak in. Please let me know of questions in the chat. I know that some things came in, Kelly, so I'm gonna go through those questions, and however those take us on whatever the rest of our day looks like together. I can't wait. There were some questions around Spirit Baby participation. So how do you see Spirit Babies participating in their own conception or their own birth experiences?
Well, just imagine that we birth ourselves into being. Nobody births us into being. We're a conscious force or entity, which what I'm saying is not really talked about. And I don't know how the frequencies of individuals will receive it, but we are sovereign souls. Like, so we come into our own being, and we connect to whatever the frequency is, which is obviously parents. And yet there's a lot of mystery to that. That's the most I'm going to say about it.
Thank you. Have you, maybe you can share a little bit more about this, and how can early energetic communication or connecting with your spirit baby influence maybe how they imprint their earliest experiences?
Yeah, you know, there's so much to that, and I know sometimes there's a lineage, right? Or there's a lot of trauma, like how we're born, and I do feel like there's a lot more harder work to be done when that happens, and really bringing that energy and bringing the energetic is amazing because you're opening into that in-between world of space, which is really where baby comes from. And it really, again, is unique to people's own traumas and layers that they have to bring that forward to do the best they can. But with communication with baby before, you know, even like if you don't do it in conception and you're in pregnancy, it's so powerful because it's really spiritual parenting before life. And you're listening, you're tuning in. And I just think about my past. I have two sons, Earthside, and my boys. And with my first pregnancy, I was really freaked out. And I intuitively suspected it wasn't going to move in the direction I wanted to, which was very unnerving. And it wasn't good. My birth was not good. And it was very traumatic. And I was very scared of the imprints and the energy I was leaving with my son. But the work that I had to do after, this is why I feel like there's repair and healing, was very present. Whereas the second time I had this amazing age gap because I had a lot of work to do. And then bringing in was like a whole other experience that had no trauma, and it was in home birthed, and it was just completely different. And yet it was like I sit back and go, wow, these souls came in through the experience of me, and we get to build it and heal it together. So I know a lot of births can go in really poor directions and be very traumatizing, and yet I know there's repair available, and it looks different for everybody. I hope I answered that right. I don't know. I feel like I got off into another.
Absolutely. It sets me up perfectly. I see a question in the chat, but I want to shift back a little bit, Kelly, and maybe we can orient again this idea of spirit babies. Who has spirit babies? Are these only for people who are maybe of childbearing age? Like, can we talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Some people would believe I've had some women, I'm just popping in my head right now, would say I had a spirit baby when I was 12 years old. Like I knew that was motherhood was there and that was coming. And I feel like I don't like to get locked down in contracts and that language. I'm very big into that because I feel like when we're opening as nature to this world and you want a child, you want to connect with that powerful energy, I feel like you just call it in. And I'm not minimizing. Again, I work a lot with infertility, with a lot of intervention. Sometimes there are past ancestral links and past traumas that get in the way, we'll say. And then it's a journey to restructure that. And I've seen really amazing, really unique individual stories. So I feel like we can't generally say, well, everyone has a spirit baby because not everybody wants to be in attraction with having bringing children earthside. So I would say if somebody's like, I'm ready, I'm here, where's that being, that is coming into creation. If not, and sometimes it is there a long time. My son was with me 5 years before I even considered having him. I knew this because at the time, many years ago, psychic people were like they didn't know what spirit baby was. Nobody really knew what it was. So I was told like, oh, there's this boy with you. And I'm like, that's interesting. Right. And then it happened a few times and I'm like, that's interesting. But they didn't know. They just didn't know. And then I realized I was like, wow, my son, remember, there's no timelines in the other space. The timelines are only here of like 5 years. But I was like, I noticed that like in later reflection, like, wow, that's really, I'm just being curious. I'm like, that's really interesting that was said. And then it was like there was some energy there already. So
You shared, Kelly, about helping women through um, maybe some kind of a blockage or something that might be coming up for them. There was a question in the chat if you've had experience of helping women with PCOS through fertility, especially if they're taking things like medication. Words are hard for me today. Happy Monday, everybody. But maybe you can share a little bit about that, about, these influences of human life, things like medication or these traumatic or emotional blockages. Can you share a little bit more?
Yeah, I know with reproductive health, it's very unique for each individual, and there are stories that get carried through life experience, like you're talking about PCOS. Did I say that right? I mean, I know what this is. I'm just make sure I said it's Monday. You said I'm gonna say it right. But like how I would perceive it and look at it is the energy of it. So it's like the ovaries, the energy of the ovaries carry its own vibration, and they are imprinted with stories based on our life, based even before that. And it will create physical rifts in the physiology, but the emotional energy to me, and the work that I've done is the most important. Because speaking with many medical doctors that have come to me privately over the years, the emotional component is such a big deal to our healing and the changing of our body. And I know in our world we feel like we're victims of this physical reality, right? It's like, oh, something physical happens. And it's not about punishment or you're bad or you created this. Things just get in creation in different ways in our body of being. And when I'm looking at reproduction and working it from that energetic space, I have an ability to see a deeper story that some people don't even want to hear a lot of times. And the story may not even be relevant, but it's more of like, what does your organs want from you now? And maybe that is intervention, and that's a very unique and personal connection. Or maybe it's more natural herbal healing, and but it can't be without that emotional piece either. It can't just be, okay, we're going to do this physical thing. Where's the to me is like the relationship and speaking with the body and opening, because if somebody has something really tragic, um like endometriosis is inflammatory, it's very historical to me in the energy field for some, that it's like it could be some work to get done. And what I can say, even just saying endometriosis, so many babies are born with it regardless. And then you have to question that, like it's more than just, okay, this is the physiology can feel like we're victimized and held by, but it's so much more. And there's just a story, and that some women will feel so much emotion in their body and held. And again, it's about gracefully moving in that space of love. And hey, maybe I do need this physical thing or more of this natural thing. And it's listening to intuition, and I see more success in that. And even though you go to doctors and it could feel like, I know some of these diagnoses feel like, oh, like, what does that mean? But it's like, you're just collecting information from them and really tuning in, because your body can change so much energetically. It's not just one thing forever. And that's something powerful to sit with.
I was just going to say that that's such a beautiful thing to resonate with, that our bodies are ever changing, that things are shifting, that we have the power to really trust in our bodies. There was another question in here, Kelly, about is it possible to have a spirit baby maybe in that preconception phase with you that might not lead to conception? Like, does having a spirit baby or having spirit baby energy with you mean that there will be a pregnancy?
No, many times I've actually seen many spirit babies with women and with men. I haven't, I just not, it's like whoever is opening the space to parenting has that connection. And some babies, for example, what comes into my mind is I was hanging out with a writer. She was not wanting ever to have children. And I'm just hanging out with her. It was nothing to do with baby, but she did come into my healing room, which is like, I feel like my healing room is activated, and we're just talking. And then I just get this impression of this little boy spirit with her. And I'm like, don't look at that, Kelly. It's none of your business. And then we went on a hike like weeks later, and she actually said to me, I don't know how it came up, but she had a termination. And then in my head, I went, oh, that makes sense. And she didn't want to accept that there was a spirit baby being connected to that. But I'm like seeing this other little soul, it's none of my business. That's her journey. And it was like it made me come into realization that there can be beings of energy that are working with us in the other side that may not manifest through. But we can't get hung up on that. People get really hung up on that. Like, well, I'm in conception, I'm talking to this baby, so they have to come. That's a you on you frequency, a connection that you're building. So yeah, babies can be around, and some say, do they go? Do they not go? There's a lot of philosophies around that, right? And I'm not going to say it's one thing or another, because I've seen so many different things. It's like some would believe they go to their friends, some would believe they go to their relatives, some believes maybe they'll come later, some believe, so it's very different. There's not like, okay, this is what it is. And I'm very conscious of that, because it isn't like that. We are not cookie cutter energetic beings. And there are some things that are very different, that maybe the books don't even tell you what your own experience is. And that's what I love, by the way, because when I'm sitting with people every week, there are some things that come up that I'm like, wow, I've never thought about that. And that makes me want to expand into this work, because people are so different. And we just have to trust and then bring it forward. So just to answer that question, that would be how I would look at it from. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, there were some questions too. I know that you said a lot of this resonates with feelings and that we need to trust our intuition, but are there any formal trainings that folks can take to maybe hone in on some of these gifts? Or if they really want to get into this work, what kind of comes next for those people?
When it's really spirit baby oriented, I always say, like, in my book, I actually have a bunch of resources of books to read, podcasts to listen to. But I actually created about 3 years ago, not just Spirit Baby Mentorship, I've now created Spirit Baby Academy. Sorry, there's a gnat in here, which is 6 month certification to go deeper into this philosophy, this connection. And I have all that set up a certain way to look at the, actually birth psychology. There's a birth psychology section that was added in there, a little piece of it to bring that in. But, conception, infertility, pregnancy, birth loss. I even have guests come in that are specialized in certain areas to go deeper into the conversation. But honestly, there's not a lot. I haven't really come across that many. There's a lot of pre-birth communication researchers back in the day, and I have that resource in my book of the people I've met throughout the years or connected with. I would even say in 2020 and after, suddenly Spirit Baby became a thing. It really wasn't anything. And now we see it way, way more. So, of course, I'm going to speak from my training from the Spirit Baby Academy. But other trainings, again, like I said, books and podcasts and psychic development groups and just kind of experiencing, self-teaching, just learning would be my best, way to offer that.
Fantastic. One last question, since we have you, Kelly. This question came in as a private DM, so I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but they say, as an intuitive birth professional who often connects unexpectedly with spirit babies, how can we integrate this into our work to support parents? And I want to go one step further. You talk a lot about integrating spirit baby communication into their work, so I just want to kind of wrap up and end on that note.
Yeah, that's excellent, because like I've said, in the mentorship and the academy, I've had midwives, doulas, fertility coaches, a lot of psychotherapists, naturopaths, name a few teachers, healers, spiritualists that are just like, you know what? I love this spirit baby connection and I have it. And how you integrate that, I teach a lot of that, because there is a language. Because I mean, and it's about our self-confidence. So I eat, breathe, sleep, spirit baby energetics. My children, they have experiences. It's just a normal language of the house that we're interdimensional, multidimensional beings. It's not, and it's okay if someone's scared or curious. We're just being open, but it's how we feel in our own energy. And I want to encourage, if you are getting connections, not just to the question that came through, is to share it with the people. That's where it begins. So I've had so many different, all these different areas of professionals I've named. They're like, okay, Kelly, I did it. I said it. And I said, and what happened? Are you surviving? You're not woohoo. You're not crazy. The mental loony bin's coming to get you. They said, no, it was received. I'm like, yeah, because people really have it in their hearts. They don't know how to articulate it, bring the language. But really, step one is saying, hey, you know what? I'm getting this feeling or this sensation. You're owning it. And then they can say it means nothing or it means something. It doesn't matter, but we have to be willing to put it out there. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this work. And many years ago, I thought this was all my imagination. So did I thought the medical intuitive was my imagination, until I started saying out loud the things that were happening. And then I started to realize, oh, this is something. So let that connection come through. Create your own language around it. Like, there's a baby connection, bring it forward. I feel like many of you already are doing that. So again, it begins with you to just be open and bold enough to go, I'm going to talk about it.
Beautiful. Kelly, thank you so much. This was such a unique and inspiring and interesting presentation. I am so grateful for all of you for joining us today. I want to give a little bit of a sneak peek for next week. We are going to be exploring motor milestone enablement with Peter Walker. He is an infant physical therapist. So talking about how simple supportive practices can help babies reach milestones like crawling or rolling or sitting with confidence and ease. These movements are so much more than just the physical. They are tied to brain development, sensory processing, and things like emotional growth. So join us to discover how tuning into your baby's natural rhythm through touching, movement, and presence can make these milestone developments joyful and not stressful for parents or baby. And I hope you all have such a wonderful day. Please come off of mute and say goodbye as we wrap up and go into the rest of our.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was wonderful.